Welcome to another podcast. Today I'm doing a video called To My Younger Self. There are so many bits of advice, opinions and quotes that I have now that I wish I'd had when I was younger. It would have saved me so much hassle, it would have helped my well-being and just would have saved me in so many situations. I have a younger sibling and I see the younger generation and there's just so much I want to say to help them just heal from a younger age and just help them with their mental well-being in general. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is probably going to be one of the hardest, but it's to forgive everyone for how they've treated you, and that goes for friends, it goes for parents, how they've raised you, it goes for just other family in general, and early relationships too. I think something I really struggled with was when friends would do me wrong, or I'd be disrespected, or they went about a situation in a way that I wouldn't have gone about, and it really upset me back then. And when you're young, you just take it quite personally, and I think something to realise is that everyone has been brought up so much differently. How you deal with a situation could be so different to how they do. It could be nothing to do with anything personal, like there's no personal vendetta against you, there was nothing malicious or intentional, it's just you weren't compatible enough in that situation to get through it together. Same with parents. I think parents is a hard one. If you don't have a great relationship with parents, or you don't understand why they react or treat you in a certain way, you have to kind of look at how they were brought up and what they have to deal with on a daily basis, and how does that shape them as a person. The difficulty with the older generation is they're not as in tune with themselves and with mental health. It was a bit of a taboo topic back then. So a lot of them, especially the older generation, probably won't look into themselves, won't do that self-awareness check, and probably will never heal, and instead they will kind of carry this generational curse onto you, or treat their loved ones in a bad way based on their own traumas that they probably don't realise. So something important is to remember that don't take that personally. It's nothing to do with you, it's all to do with their own traumas and their personal experiences. They don't know what to do with it. Whereas for you, you should focus on, okay, well, how can I heal myself? How can I make sure I'm not like that? How can I make sure I understand and I listen to all my traumas and my issues and I do something with it? I go and heal from an early age, and the earlier the better. If you can start healing and realising that, okay, I've got a few bad traits or I've got a few issues that need to be sorted. If you can sort that and you're aware of it at a young age, by the time you're an adult, you're going to be so in tune with yourself and so connected that you will just protect your own energy, your own aura, and you're going to be way more successful and just have so much self-love for yourself. But the first key to that is to forgive everyone around you. Everyone's been brought up differently. People have different attachment styles. You could think someone's being really off with you, but actually they've got something called an avoidant attachment style, and you have an anxious one, which means that you're quite clingy and you treat people with lots and lots of love, probably too much love, whereas an avoidant person will kind of hold back a bit and be a bit distant. So remembering that, don't take it personally, it's how they are. Or even like love languages. If you buy someone a gift and they're not as appreciative as you might have been, well, that's because their love language is not gift giving, or they feel uncomfortable around gifts. Maybe it's a trigger response or something. So you have to remember and look into every reaction. That don't just initially get upset with someone or take it personally and feel like, kind of have that victim mindset that I used to have, where I was like, they've been mean to me. It's more like, I wonder why they reacted in that way. I wonder if there's anything behind it, or if there is just their upbringing was bad and they've turned out to be a bit of a mean person. You can kind of walk away with your head high, knowing that, okay, you can try and help them heal. If they don't want it, you can just go heal yourself instead. Okay, the next one's probably a big one for me. It's don't be a sheep. Now, people say this all the time and you're probably like, oh no, like, I'm the leader of my group, or whatever you want to say, or no, I'm quite independent, I know what I want, or no one's opinion could like change my morals or what I at the end of the day want to do. But you don't realise that a lot of us are sheeps, especially when you start like a new friendship group, a new school, or anything. Or if you get into the group with the wrong people, you can start to be like manipulated to the point where you don't realise, but you are being a sheep, you're following people. A personal experience for me was probably when I started my secondary school. I was kind of like in a place where I was kind of craving that attention because I hadn't quite healed my own inner child problems yet. So I was trying to make friends with everyone, and my main issue was I wanted everyone to like me. So I would try and be friends with everyone, almost too much, which meant if I joined the wrong group, I would then try and alter my personality to meet theirs, even if it wasn't compatible. And I'd start doing and saying things that wasn't me, it was them, just so I could fit in and they could like me. And then I just got myself in a heap of trouble, and I would cause drama, or I'd be involved in drama. I'm quite a loyal person, so if who I think are my friends at the time are in trouble, I had no fear back then of jumping in and getting involved. But if I look at myself now I know who I am. I'm not a confrontational person at all. And back then, if I look at myself, I was pretending to be someone. I was being a sheep. I was following what they were doing because I wanted them to like me and make sure that I could stay with them. And I've just realised, and a lot of people do it when we're younger, we change our personalities to match who we want to be friends with. Don't do it. Be yourself. Like, everyone says it and it's almost cliche, but you have to be yourself. It's the best piece of advice I can have. The true friends will be the people that like you for you. And you see that as you get older. The issue with when you're young is like, it takes you a while to realise that, so you'll end up getting in loads of arguments and dramas and falling in and out of the wrong group before you become an adult, and then you realise who you are, and then you attract just the right people that love you for you. But it can take a few years to get there, and sometimes it's good character development. But if I'm being honest, I wish I knew that when I was younger, because if I just was my true self, I would have found the friends that I have now a lot sooner, a lot quicker. I would have probably started my healing journey a lot quicker. I would have gone through less, like, mentally, and probably wouldn't have been as sad as I ended up being, and it would have been a lot of an easier journey for me. I understand everything happens for a reason, and I'm very big on, like, I would never change my past. But if I can help someone else, if I can prevent it for another life, then I will. It's just be yourself and just see who you attract. It can be a bit lonely. It depends what type of personality you are. If you're quite a shy person, that's a little bit... It's more difficult to make friends, but trust me, there'll be another shy person that loves you for you, and you'll become the best friends, and they'll probably turn up at your wedding. Would you rather that, or would you rather pretend to be this loud, obnoxious person and get involved in quite a mean group, and then you're kind of classed with that reputation, and that's who you are, and then you have to carry that for years in and out of drama before you finally go, that's not actually me. Okay, another thing for me is, or something I really want to talk about, is social media. So me growing up, I feel like I was quite lucky. I was kind of at the beginning of when social media started to pop off. So I was probably in the middle of it. Whereas if I look at the generation now, I feel so bad because social media is life. Like, it's all that people use. TikTok especially. TikTok wasn't around when I was going through my worst moments in upper school, which thank goodness it wasn't, because it would have triggered me to the max. But if I look at it now, like, I can go through my TikTok page, like, I'm a bit older, and it still gets to me. It's like really triggering TikToks about mental health, or like self-harm or eating disorders, or it can be like sad edits from TV shows that are like romanticized and you feel like it's cool to be like that. And just like general, like, there's some things about like how men, like the whole Andrew Tate thing, for example. And as a young boy or even girl, if you're seeing like triggering things, or you're hearing like a influencer talk about how you should be, you're very adaptable at that age. You might actually believe that, take that on, and the more content you consume, especially the depressing content, the more depressed you're probably gonna get. I found it when I was in school, and I didn't even have TikTok, so I cannot even imagine how much worse it could be now. But for me, it was true. I think a lot of the mental health stuff I went through just kind of was like dramatised, if that's a word, through social media as well. Like, I could already be struggling with something, and then I could see like a few Instagram posts, or if I watch a TV show where it's all like romanticized and a bit toxic, and I would kind of like take that onto my own personality, and I would then be like, yeah, I do have something wrong with me. And I would see these TikTok, or not TikToks, but social media stuff or TV stuff, and I would kind of make it my personality, and I would like incorporate it, and it would think, oh yeah, I have that, or yeah, I'm like that character, oh, that makes sense, I need to like keep up the act. And it's not good, like, at all, and it's a very like hard thing to admit, but it's true. I feel like we see characters, or we see like things online that we then attach to ourselves, and we kind of go with it, especially throughout your teenage years. You know, you're very hormonal, very up and down, so it was something that I definitely like fell into the trap of. And I could only imagine now, if you have TikTok where you're on it all the time and you're consuming, how many TikToks do you think you consume in an hour, because they're so short? All this negative content, or just useless content, is filling up your brain, and it's definitely not going to be helping you. So I say get off social media. You don't realise how impressionable it is. You don't realise how, even me now, like if I go on TikTok for like an hour, I'll start to feel a bit bad because I've seen a few negative posts. I'm at a stage where I can turn it off now and like separate that from my thoughts. But when I was younger and when you're hormonal, you can't separate it. You kind of assume it's all you. You think it's all how you feel, your mental health, your feelings, and that's very dangerous because you can start to believe it. And some people are still my age and still are stuck with the mindsets that they felt when they were back in year 9, and they just spent too much time kind of seeing other similar things that kind of resonated with them, and they just absorbed it all and made it their life. And you can be really miserable from that, and you can get stuck in a cycle. And that was my issue, is I would genuinely get stuck. And I don't want anyone to get stuck. I want you to be able to say, okay, this is social media. It's nothing to do with how I'm feeling or my mental health. And take time off it, because the more you spend on it, the more you realise you're getting sucked into a cycle and it's out of your control at that point. Okay, another thing that you have to be easy on yourself for is hormones. This is girls and boys. At a young age, you know, when you start puberty, I mean, it can go on for years, even like to the point of like, I'm going to say probably year 8 to like year 12. And with boys, I think it's even longer than girls, but you have a lot of hormones going on. And when you're young, and I remember I was probably year 9, year 10, we were probably in the midst of it, like the highest levels. And you do feel quite depressed. You can feel quite angry. You can feel quite emotional. And I had a bad habit of kind of thinking that was my personality, that was me, that was Maisie. And it got really bad because I would just kind of label that as myself. But looking back now, I can realise a lot of it was just, I was going through so many hormones, I was getting so anxious and so depressed because of that I kind of made it my personality trait a little bit. It was difficult though, because then year 9, year 10, you know, I could actually be depressed with mental health, and I had a few things going on. The hormones just didn't help it. It just made it 10 times worse. And you just kind of feel like, this is me. This is how I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And you can get quite suicidal. You can think like, there's no point in me being here if I'm going to feel like this for the rest of my life. But please remember that it's such a small period of your life. We live until 80, 90, maybe even higher. Look at the Queen. You know, there is so much to your life. This is the smallest segment of it. So you have to really think like, there is so much more, and you're going to change throughout your life. Not just one day will you be depressed and then happy, and that will be the only change. It's going to be a whole row of different emotions. Like, right now I can feel good. Next year I can feel bad. Next year I can feel the happiest I think I've ever felt, and then the year after that could top that as well, and I go, actually no, I'm happier now. You're never going to know like how happy and sad you're going to be, but you're going to change probably like a million times as a person as you grow up. I can say already in my 19 years of living, I've probably changed 20 times, like my personality, who I am, my morals, and that's through growing up and just realising a lot. So just remember that your hormones do play a big part. It can make you feel more lazy and more depressed. It doesn't mean that's how you're going to feel for the rest of your life. There's certain things you have to do though. You have to take your own wellness into your hands. If you want to feel better about yourself, learn how to do those things that make you feel better. For me, it's going on a walk with my dog and going to get a coffee. If I'm having a bad, depressed day, they are the smallest little things that just make my day better and just make me think life is worth living just that little bit more. And that's what I used to do back in the day when I was quite depressed and my hormones were getting the best of me. I would just set myself little things to do that would make me feel better. Just clean your room a little bit, and if you're really not feeling it, then stay in bed and just watch TV for the day. You're allowed to rest, you're allowed to feel depressed. Your hormones are going up, down, up, down. So this is the time that you're allowed to listen to your emotions and get it out, journal. If you want to be angry, take up a boxing class. It can be whatever you want, but feel your emotions, don't shut them out, let them come, but please label them and analyse them, that a lot of it is going to be hormones at that age. The rest of it will be either mental health, or you're going through a bad time and you are genuinely struggling with an emotion, an issue at that point. But just think, you are not your emotions, you're not your hormones either. You have a personality, you're just going through a situation and you're going through your hormones, and it's all going to be intertwined. And when you get out of it and you're an adult, you're going to realise, one, how dramatic you are, that's something I can say, and two, like, you can realise how much you can evolve. I had two things. I had to really separate my hormones to my mental health issues. They were both there, they were both prominent, and I'm not saying one didn't exist and one did. They both were there, and living side by side with both of them was probably the hardest years of my life. It was, you know, even as an adult now, like, I will still say year 9 was the hardest year of my life. Even though I was a child, it was. But looking back now, if I can give one piece of advice, I would say take it easy. Just realise that you're going through one of the most emotional stages of your life, boys and girls. So just relax and just realise that you're going to feel so much better, and there's going to be so much more fun when you're a little bit older. Just enjoy the present, enjoy your little moments with your friends as much as you can, even though a lot of the time it could seem quite depressing, angry, lonely. Just realise, take pride in those tiny small things that are good, because then that percentage of like happiness to depression or loneliness is going to grow as you get older and as you overcome these hormones and these situations. Okay, another thing is learn self-love young. I think this is something I missed out on entirely. I kind of done my healing and my self-love a lot later in my life. I'm just quite lucky that I didn't really launch my attention into anything too serious with that, but some people do. So something I want to say is, do not seek attention in toxic, unhealthy ways. Do not seek attention in relationships, drugs, alcohol, confrontation, arguments. It is just not worth it. And I definitely did that with like confrontation a bit. It was kind of half to do with being a sheep and half to do with like just wanting to impress people, and just if there was an opportunity where I could get involved in something, I would. But it's not worth it. Don't seek validation in any of those ways, because it's just not going to benefit you in the long run at all. It might seem fun in the moment. You might be like, this is fun, like I feel good about myself, but it's not. Self-love is the true attention for you, because you can carry it throughout your whole entire life as an adult. If you can truly learn detachment, self-love, truly be content with being by yourself and who you are, it doesn't matter who comes into your life, what goes on, you know you've got yourself, and that you're confident and that you love yourself. And this will go on until you have kids, until you're old, but you have to learn that young. It took me a while and I've still got there, so it's not like the end of the world or hope. Like, everyone's journey is different, and I'm giving all this advice, but there might be situations you have to be put in to learn something. So you can't avoid all these bad things. Like, bad things are going to happen. Some people may have it worse, some people may have it easy, but it's going to happen no matter what. But just a few things to try and remember is to love yourself. Try and spend that time really getting confident with yourself. Who are you? Get your personality. This was an issue that I had. I literally did not know my personality up until probably 2.5 years ago now. Like, I didn't even know what music I liked, because I was basing it off who I was around and who I was trying to impress. I didn't even know like what my hobbies were. I was just hanging around with these friends. I wasn't even doing any sport or any music or anything. And then I got into media and I was like, oh, this is definitely like a Maisie trait. Like, I know what music I like now. I know what food I like. I know all of these things because I know what my personality is, and no one is going to change that. And that's the point that you need to get at, is you know who you are and you're confident and comfortable with that person. And if you're not, you're going to have to do what I did, the healing journey. I was not comfortable with who I was and the actions I'd done and the way I went about life. So I changed it. I healed. I noticed my bad traits and I improved them. And I'm not perfect. There's still things every day I try and work on, try and improve. But it's a step to self-love. Try and do it younger than I did, just because otherwise when you're young it gets dangerous. You know, there is people out there manipulating young people to give them that attention they crave, or drugs and alcohol. It can lead you down a very serious route, and if you just learn from a young age that you can love yourself and fill that void, do it. I think another thing, the main thing with that is all about inner child healing and traumas. You've probably been brought up in a way where you've had something missing. So for example, say your parents didn't really give you that physical touch, that physical attention, the words of affirmation and all those things, and you've got that like affection hole in your heart from when you were younger. You might not even realise it now, but as you get older you're going to crave that void to be filled by most likely relationships. And I have a few people that I know have been in and out of relationships since the age of like 12, 13, because they're constantly trying to fill that void. Try and fill it yourself. Try and learn, and the only way you can do that is to go back from the beginning. Go back to how you were brought up. Understand that it's because you didn't get it as a child. Forgive yourself for that. Forgive your parents for that. We're not all perfect. We have to understand that and accept it first, and then you go on this journey where you learn all about it. You learn about self-love. How can you help yourself? It'll be an up-down journey, but it's so much better than just kind of giving up and saying, this is how I am, I need to get the attention from this, because it's not good. And you could potentially get in a cycle where you're 20 and you're still in the same cycle. So self-love first and foremost. You do not need to indulge in any of these bad behaviours or bad habits to make yourself feel satisfied or pleasure. None of that. You just need to work on yourself. Okay, my next thing is have a mindset. Really find a motto or a mindset, ambitions that you can stick by from an early age. Know that you're going to do well. So I talk about on this page a lot about prayer, manifestation, believing in yourself, believing in God's timing. If you can learn that mindset from young, you're going to find life a lot easier. When I was younger, in about year 9, I really struggled with anxiety, and I felt like anything that was out of my control, I would have complete meltdowns over. Absolutely hated it. So now as I've got older and I've got into the mindset where I can trust God or manifest that everything's going to be okay, like it's going to work out, I believe in myself, that I'm going to work hard, that I'm going to learn the situation right, it's going to be okay. Ever since I've started thinking in that mindset, my anxiety has got so much better. Because if there's a bad situation or I've got a test or anything like career-wise or even like friendship-wise, I used to stress out so much, whereas now I can say, well, I've put in the hard work, I've prepared, I've done everything I can, I've prayed, I've manifested, and now I just trust God or trust the universe or whoever you believe in. Trust yourself. And to have that mindset has just saved me so many panic attacks, so much unnecessary stress. There's just no need for me to stress if I've done the work and there's nothing more I can do. Whereas back then I used to just literally cry about everything all the time. So I wish I had that mindset when I was younger, especially with stressful times like GCSEs and A-levels or friendship groups, just to be able to go, look, I'm going to trust that this friendship issue will work itself out in the way that's going to benefit me the most. And understanding, like, my main mindset is everything happens for a reason. There is a reason that person had an argument with you and left your life. There is a reason that relationship didn't work. There is a reason you failed that test. There is so many things, so many reasons as to why things go wrong and to push you to do better, because in the long run and in the future you're going to get something so much better than that initial thing, and you need to really trust that that is true and that will work for you. And I can say in everything that happened back in school, it's definitely happened for a reason that has been more beneficial to me in the long run. Back then it probably wasn't great because I was falling out with people and failing tests and doing all of this, but if back then I just said, you know what, I know I can trust because in the future this is going to benefit me, I would have been so much happier. But instead, in the middle of all that chaos, I was stressing, I was panicking, I was doing all these things, I was self-sabotaging and really, really struggling and almost giving up. And if I just relaxed and knew that it's because God has a plan for me and he needed me to go through all of that, I would have relaxed so much more. And I can do that now. And again, I don't regret anything from my past. It all happened for a reason for me. But I just remember being like a really anxious girl, and some of these things led me down really, really, really dark paths. And I really want to prevent anyone from feeling that way. So if I can just say that to someone, that like, trust, it's gonna work out, these things are happening for a reason, and that helps you find comfort and just breathe, then that's so important to me. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped the younger generation or even people my age that are just kind of learning about healing their inner child, and you want to trace back your steps as to when you were that age and kind of resonate with some of the things I've spoke about and try and heal it as an adult now. It's just so important to like look back at that stage, because for me it was one of the hardest, and I know a lot of people can resonate with that. So hopefully these things did help. And yeah, I'm going to get a few more people on the podcast. Very excited. I've got quite a lot of ideas. So hopefully you can watch this, enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one.